Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Taking Up Space, a Michelle A. Mayer podcast. Always excited about coming forward, y'all. Today's no different. Today, I got a good one for you today. It is hot off of the heels of my Sunday service that I delivered yesterday. I had some comments in the comment section of the live, and I noticed that in my past lives, whenever I go to review the comments, I'm not able to see them after I end the live. So because I'm new to this, I don't know that unless I experience it and try it. It's a trial and error thing with me. So after I finished and completed my Sunday service yesterday, I said, let me go and review the comments, and thankful that some of the people were still on the live when I went to look at the comments, and I was able to interact with them. And it made me come to, in tossing the interactions that I had with yesterday's Sunday service, both in the comments and just in the dialogue that I expounded upon, I came to the revelation that I need to speak to this chosen thing. I look on social media a lot, and I see a lot of people speaking to these chosen ones. I can't help, I know many of you have seen this. I can't help but acknowledge that I see this, and it's very paramount in my timeline, so much so that I thought, well, maybe it's my algorithm, right? Maybe it's what I'm focused on and what I like, or that I stop and view, that's making all of these topics show up on my timeline. So I went and I unfollowed everybody on my Instagram, on my TikTok, and on my many people I unfollowed that were on my YouTube page. And I didn't do it just because of the algorithm. I did it because it's the fourth quarter of the year. I'm embarking on a new year. I'm renegotiating all of my relationships. And a lot of stuff that I just added on, I don't even pay attention to. So I just said, I'm going to just be done with them. And those that I really like and pay attention to, I will follow. And some of the people I follow, I've began to follow again on TikTok, are just people that I see in these comment sections on my lives. But nonetheless, this chosen theme, now that I've reset all of my followings, is still paramount on my timeline. So it must be something that's going on in the world. It must be something that people are actually speaking to. Chosen ones. It's become a popular term. Chosen one. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? And I said, well, how does that relate to scripture, right? Because a lot of times we get excited about these things because they're popular and certain people are saying them, and we grab hold to them. We want to partake in the energy of the situation. And so we kind of piggyback on things. But me, I am one of those people that I look deeper into it, and I look to find the truth of it, the root of it. And it made me cross-reference this to biblical scripture. And that's what I want to speak to today as it relates to these chosen ones and some of the things that I have discovered in my search of really what it means to be chosen. I guess the word chosen means that someone chose you. You didn't sign up for this role or the job or the duty or whatever that is that you've been chosen for. You have been selected by someone. And what the vibration is across social media regarding these chosen ones is that they didn't select themselves, but that someone or God selected these people. And in their selection, there was a proving phase to them being selected. There's a process to this selection. And if you refer back to scripture, you will see that this is very true. You will find that The original chosen ones were the Hebraic house, the house of Israel. This house that God chose because of the decisions that the world had made in feeling themselves, the children, the entire world, the children of God had made after the flood, and seeing themselves helpless and needing the direction of those disembodied spirits that had remained after the flood. They had defaulted back to depending upon these disembodied spirits to assist them in finding comfort and security in their day-to-day life. And in doing so, they gave over their sovereignty. They gave over their power, their ability to choose and make decisions for themselves as it related to spiritual endeavors and as it related to their vessels in general. They were bartering the God power for favors in making life comfortable on earth to these disembodied spirits. And in them doing that, they would create these idols. The idols are the primary method that these disembodied spirits must use in order to have a presence in this world because of the punishment, the curse that God had put upon them. Without depending upon the children, these disembodied spirits, these spirits that were once mighty in the earth and that had the upper hand of the children, without the children, these spirits would be powerless. And in their ingenuity, in their ability to always rise to the highest point of their creation in whatever capacity, in whatever state they find themselves in, they come up with ingenious plans on using the children of God's nature against them and to their benefit. This goes back to what I say all along about who's living up to their expectation and who's not. If we were to really look at things for what they really are, who would you say is living up to their expectation and who's not? Are the fallen ones, the disembodied spirits, living up to their expectation? Have they fallen in rank below Adam as they were supposed to? No. I mean, they have, but they have leveraged their intellect to make Adam serve them. And the only way that Adam and Adam's descendants, which are all of the people of the world, serve them is if they do not live up to their expectation. This is why Babylon was so huge. It was because the children had fallen again in hierarchy by their actions. They had fallen again into transgression. Transgression is not meeting the mark, not living up to your expectation, not standing in your rightful place. You not standing in your rightful place and commanding all of those that you are responsible for breaks up the system. The system is dependent upon you. The system is not dependent upon them. They are dependent upon you. Yet, if you, Adam and Adam's descendants, do not live up to their expectation and don't rise to the occasion of which they were created to rise to and dominate within, then the system dominates them because the show must go on. It does not stop. And so God sees this happening. And he's like, didn't I just flood the world? Didn't I just reset this thing and give you again an advantage? You have all the advantage in the world now. There's no reason for you to fall at the feet of these disembodied spirits. They don't have a house any longer. They have nowhere, no way to really exude their power. Yet you have now come and just handed them over your power again. You have seen yourself unworthy. You do not see yourself capable. You talk it, you make it seem like it is. You got all of the visuals and the perceptions and all the stuff that looks like it is. But when the rubber meets the road, when things really need to show themselves for what they are, you default to needing those that are supposed to be serving you. You cannot stand in your strength. And God is saying, you know what? I'm going to have to tough love you. The only way that you're going to be able to see who you are is through tough love. And I'm seeing now that there's probably not going to be a lot of you that rise to this occasion. But if I can just get a couple of you, a handful of you, I feel as if my goal has been reached. Out of the billions and trillions and millions of you, if I could just get 100 of you, 100,000 of you, out of the, I don't even know what's after trillion. Out of the trillion, the multiples of trillions of you, if I could just get 100 of you to rise to this level, if I can just get 100,000 of you to rise to this level, I feel justified in my creation of you. This is what God is looking to do. He's looking to, in some ways, justify his creation of you. He's spoken so highly of you that he will not allow his words to fall to the ground. Yet the head count might not be where he would have liked it to have been. But if he can just get some of us to rise, he feels justified. And he says, I'm going to let you guys tough love it out. You want to follow these disembodied spirits? Because the show must go on. Either you're going to dominate them like you were created to do, or they're going to dominate you. And this thing has now become very interesting. I don't ever want anybody to say that I didn't give you the opportunity, that I didn't do everything I needed to do to give you a chance at winning this. I don't want nobody to say that I didn't do everything I could to get you ramped up. I flooded the world. I had to justify that. Everybody came for me on that and was like, why would you do such things? There were innocent lives and cattle and all these other things that were affected by it. I went out on a limb for you on that. And then now, after the world is flooded, I tell you to go on and inhabit the world. It's yours. There's not an enemy in sight. There's no one amongst you that can overtake you. Could you imagine waking up? I'm sure being on that ark was terrible. But after you get over the trauma of the ark and you wake up and you can just go about life as you want, you don't have to do anything. You don't have a bill to pay. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have rent. You don't have a job to go to. You got a full world that you can create however you want. You could lay out at night and look at the stars and not worry about a lion, a tiger, or a bear coming for you. And God says, go, be fruitful and multiply. All you got to do is love one another. Be fruitful and multiply. Take care of one another. Go and break up. Go in different directions. But they don't do that. They coagulate. And you can understand why they will coagulate. People like to stick together. But that's not what God told you to do. A lot of times there are things that God tells you to do that don't feel like you should do them, but you got to do them. That's all a part of being chosen. That's the fundamental aspect of being chosen, friend. Everybody wants to be chosen. Chosen one. But if you knew what it took to be chosen, I'm here to tell you, nobody would ever agree to be chosen. It just wouldn't. You wouldn't do it. God is telling these people, Noah's descendants, these original chosen people that went through all hell on that ark. I read to you what it spoke to in the Apocrypha, what that ark was like. They were on that ark for a whole year, swimming in feces, throw up, vomit. Water was seeping in. For a whole year, rocking and rolling, covered in it. Hot, cold, dank. Chosen. God's chosen people. And then the ark lands and they come out stinking. Traumatized. They have ingested feces, had to eat whatever they could, however they were able to do it. Traumatized. God says, this is the world. The world is yours. The world looks nothing like it did before. Places that they knew of don't exist any longer. Everything's flooded. The earth swallowed up all that was before. Everything's buried underground. All these mud floods you be talking about on TikTok. Mud flood. Everything looks different. No longer do you have the old places you would go to before. They don't exist. None of your old friends exist. All of them were tragically unalived in the flood. Flood, both water and earth. And they were on a boat, swimming in feces, throw up, vomit, eating food, swimming in this for a year. That's what the Apocrypha says. And then God says, I know that was a lot, but I need you to just rinse yourselves off in this water. And I need you to know that I'm with you. I love you. And you need to go out and be fruitful and multiply. God would elongate the lives of these people. These chosen people. He would elongate their lives because he knew that them coming out of that situation, it would be a length of days before they would want to lay amongst one another and be fruitful amongst one another and multiply. The mind, it needs time to wrap itself around what all it has experienced. And God says, be fruitful, multiply, and move around. I tell you these things because I'm not just talking to you because I need to tell you something so I can check the box that I told you. I'm telling you these things to safeguard you, to help you. Move around, because if you coagulate, this enemy is waiting for an opportunity, friend, to get you in a place so that he can deceive you. Because that's how I created him. I've created him in a way that he will never stop trying. Thank you, Sandy. He will never stop trying. Because he's going to live up to his expectation. He's being judged just like you are. You're being judged off if you listen to the direction I give you and act upon it. And he's being judged to live up to the code he has been created to live up to. Yet you don't do what I tell you to do. You don't do anything that I tell you to do. And in you not doing what I tell you to do, you fall for his trap. And now the children at this time were in Babylon and they fell for it. They could have had the upper hand, prime time for them to have the upper hand. But because they were disobedient, they didn't do what they were told to do. They didn't go and inhabit the world like they were supposed to do. The enemy trapped them. And the enemy, when he traps you, he's so subtle that he gets the upper hand. And now, before you know it, God gets wind of what they're down there doing. And they're saying that they're building a tower. A tower? A tower to try to control their creator. Why? Because this enemy has gotten so full of himself. He feels as if his code is written in a way where he must always try. And he's been condemned to nobody, forced to deal with Adam. That was the original job, was to serve Adam. And he said he wouldn't do it. And God said, okay, I'm going to see how this plays out. And he's getting the advantage of Adam. Tricked Eve, gets the advantage of Adam. And now God says, okay, I'm going to flood the world and disembody him, forcing him to be subservient to Adam. Adam must give him the authority to be useful in this world. Adam must agree with him. And if Adam does what I tell him to do, he will have the advantage in a way. Because I know that Adam doesn't know himself. That was the code that I created Adam not to have. Self-knowledge. He would need to learn this. So I give him somewhat of an advantage. Only if he listens to me. But Adam doesn't listen. And this entity sets up an ingenious plan. And this plan now is to get this Adam and his descendants to serve him. Create him a vessel through his own ingenuity and him telling Adam how to do it. Getting Adam to be the legwork, the runner, to do his will. To entrap his own self. And in him doing such things, he condemns himself. And God says, this tower you're going to create, you're looking to bind me. You're mad at me because I punished you because of your error. Speaking to the fallen one. And the fallen one being so angry because of the punishment says, I got to get to the root of this problem. I got to usurp God. I've got to challenge God because there's no way around me getting from up under this. That's the only way out for me, is to challenge my creator. And on one hand, my creator can understand it because it's written in my code to always try. So I'm standing in my divine creation, in a sense. But I'm challenging my creator because I do not want to honor the punishment. I do not want to accept the limitations that have been put upon me. We're dealing with someone that will not accept limitations. He does not accept limitations. And he will use any and everybody he can to get his will and his needs met because he does not see himself accepting limitations. Yet, this mindset is embedded in his code. This is supposed to be the way Adam sees it. and Eve. They are not supposed to accept limitations. They are to continuously try at it. They are to convert whatever comes upon them to limit them to making it serve them. And this entire system is set up in a way that when Adam and Eve stand in the truth of their creation, all things must serve them. But if they don't stand in the truth of it, they serve those things that were supposed to serve them. And that's exactly what's going on. So getting back to the moral of the conversation, the chosen. Noah and his descendants, the original chosen. And they chose to give up their sovereignty and be enslaved out of ignorance of self, out of ignorance to the game that's being played upon them. They could not stand in the sovereignty of themselves and say, come hell or high water, I might not know what's going on. I might not have the whole story of this. I do not understand this, but I'm not budging. No. God told me his laws. God sat with me and showed me this realm. He showed me good and evil, light and dark. I might not know all the interminglings of these things, but obviously I wasn't supposed to know it. And now that this challenge has come upon me, I've seen what happened with the flood. I've seen the power of nature and I've seen the power of God. I've seen the limitations of these fallen ones. I've seen what they can and they cannot do. They were not able to save themselves. And surely I'm traumatized by the power and the wrath of God, but God covered me under his wings and protected me and my family. And there is a purpose for my life. And surely we're in a new realm. And a lot of this stuff these people are telling me, these fallen ones, are making sense. But I've got to stand in the totality and in the integrity and the authority of what I was created to do. And I'm going to have to say no. And I'm going to have to allow the power of God to show itself in my life as it showed itself during this flood. But they wouldn't do it. Why? Because of the comforts. It was easier. It was easier not to do it. This enemy comes with comfort, friend. That's all he got is comfort. And he knows the nature. So God says, okay, I'm going to turn my back on the whole world. I'm going to turn my back on my chosen people. Remember, the people after the flood were the chosen people because God chose them alive. God chose to keep them alive. These are the original chosen. And he turns his back on them at Babylon. And he goes about life. He lets life continue on. And he's observing his creation, as he should. And in him observing his creation, he finds one that is sincerely looking for him. He finds one in the world that he can use that is sincerely looking for God. And because Abram, the one that was sincerely looking for God, was looking for God, God chose Abram. So now the second chosen, Abram. God chooses Abram. And he makes a promise, a contract with Abram, that he will do X, Y, and Z if Abram does A, B, C. And Abram sticks to what is necessary in honoring this contract. You see, the reason the world did not know of the God of the Hebrews was primarily because he turned his back on them. Many people say, well, where did this God come from? All the people that these children are walking through the nations are like, who is this God? Well, because this God had went dark on these people. The God of the world turned his back on the world. He didn't destroy the world again. He turned his back. He went silent. He allowed those disembodied spirits that he disembodied to become prevalent and kings over nations for an extended amount of time. Between the time Babylon fell and the time that Abram and God created this covenant was an extended amount of time. Generations had come and gone. The generations that knew of the God of the house of Israel, the God of the world, the universe, had come and gone. Languages had been broken up. People had forgotten. They had gotten so enamored in honoring the gods that they were bound to that they had forgotten the whole storyline. So now God comes upon Abram and in increments shows Abram who he is. And what we're seeing with God and Abram is God incrementally showing himself to Abram. When Abram takes Isaac to be sacrificed, this was nothing new. These gods that these people were making idols and worshiping, making idols of and housing and worshiping, these gods required these types of sacrifices. These people were offering their children up to devils. Let's just be honest. They were offering their children up to devils. This was known. So when you see Abram going and offering Isaac up, you see God showing the people through Abram, showing Abram his differences. The differences that he has, but the differences between what God is establishing in the Hebraic house and what the gods of the earth, the lower level gods, need. And the only way God can show differences is through action. Friend, it's a tough road being chosen. It costs so much. It's the most terrifying thing you will ever experience. It's got to be the most glorifying, meaningful experience of your life. And Abram is experiencing it. Abram didn't know if Isaac was going to be offered up or not, if he was going to have to slay his son. Didn't know. But Abram needed to show as much honor and reverence in his actions and his willingness to the God of Israel, of the Hebraic house, as he would show to these lesser gods that the God of the Hebraic house created. And then for him to be willing to do such, and then God saying, no, that's not what we do over here. This is not what we do. Chosen. What we will find in these chosen people is that God will distinguish these people to prove a point to the world. This is a small nation of people initially, that God would lead and do monumental things with amongst the entire world. This God would show miracles that the world had not ever seen. At that time, surely the world prior to had seen many of these miracles, the flood. But because God had turned his back on the world at Babylon, this new world had not ever seen nor heard of such things. This is why it was so confusing. They couldn't understand, who is this God? because he had went silent underground and allowed the lesser gods to have dominion, the gods that he created and put in place in his hierarchical system to have dominion, just so that he could come back and take the least advantaged route with one man, create a contract, a promise that he knew that one man's descendants would not be able to adhere to. God knew these people would not be able to live up to the expectation that he set upon Abraham with this contract. But it would all work to the glory of God. Nothing's lost. These children will start from one man, showing the might and the ingenious nature of the Creator. He's saying, I can build all of this again with one. I'm going to show you who I am by my activity. And you're going to learn me through the activity of your life and the activity of those around you and those that have come before you. That is the only way you know me. I'm not a theoretical God. I'm a trial by error. I'm a trial by fire kind of guy. And these people will be led to know their God by activity in adhering to the laws of God. And the nations that he turned his back upon would be excluded from being able to benefit from the promises of this God, or even be included in this particular exclusive chosen house. God said, you are my treasure. I chose you. Verse 26 of Leviticus, chapter 21 of Leviticus, and ye shall be holy unto me, for I, the Lord, am holy, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine. The whole world, God had turned his back upon them. But that one man, Abram, God made a commitment to and did a monumental thing. And this might that God would show amongst the nations in their faces would provoke the kings, the lesser gods, the gods that God created, to show up in some way. They would have to show up in some way. They would have to give some form of fight, because then if they didn't, it would show how weak they are in contending with their Creator. A lot of this contending that we see is saving face. It's a lot of saving face going on. You got masters of perception. You got people that'll come out looking real strong and putting on these airs and fronts and all of these perceptions, and they go back home. They can't even sleep. It's all fake. It's a lie. Because your attention is so valuable. You are in a game where attention is king. Attention is the currency. They create money and all of these falsehoods to get your attention. These nations, these kings of these nations, know that they could not contend against the God of Israel. He destroyed the whole world, disembodied them. They are in the predicament they're in because of him. And then the next go round, they're going to be in a worse predicament. This time, God said, okay, I'm going to make you disembodied. You're just not going to have a body. And then the next time God comes, he's going to say, what else is he going to say? Chosen. Chosen. God will create the house of Israel as a holy nation, a royal priesthood. his chosen possession, all to get the attention of these nations. If you were to ask me, what better way? You got people wishing that they could be part of this thing, wishing, looking at the children of Israel and saying, boy, you guys sure take your anointing for granted. Because if I had it, I wouldn't. I would adhere to every principle that God would set before me. And it would provoke the kings, the disembodied spirits, to create all kinds of stumbling blocks to get these people to fall out of alignment. Balaam would know that he would not be able to challenge these people openly. But just like I said yesterday in my Sunday service, how the elders and the chief priests would not want to get their hands dirty, but they would be the main ones coming up with the plots, insinuating, so that the Pharisees could go out and do the dirty work. The Pharisees could take the brunt of the wrongdoing. Balaam would do the same thing. He would tell the Midianites, I can't do anything with them, but you can take this information and you can kind of insinuate and allow them to do themselves in. Another example of how God would notice the play and how God would punish these people for doing such things. For trying to trip these children up, not even trying to, but doing it. And God would punish the Pharisees, Sadducees, elders, chief priests the same way for insinuating such things on his chosen people. You see, being chosen is not something that you do. Abram did not want to be chosen by God. He didn't even know God was looking. Abram is just following the directive of his heart. He's defaulting to the code that is written on his heart, and he's doing as he was created to do, looking for truth in a sea of lies and confusion. Not resting in the lies and confusion because it's so difficult to swim through them. Because that's what these fallen ones do. They make it difficult for you to find the truth. They make it a lifetime endeavor to get just a minimal aspect of the truth because you're swimming through a sea of confusion and falsehoods. Yet Abram is avidly doing such. Not thinking, I want to be chosen by God. I want to be the first guy that God chooses and builds this relationship with. He doesn't even know such things are possible. He just has an inquiring mind. He has a love. He has a fascination. There's a calling in his spirit. It's the song of his heart. It's the song of his life. And many of you have that same fascination. A love for something that is formless. And you look forward in everything you do. Every monumental aspect of your life, you look forward and you counter with it. And every minimal thing of your life, you look forward within and you counter. And in your looking, it finds you. And it snuggles up next to you. And it won't leave you alone. And it grows and it grows. And even when you take your attention off of it and you get mesmerized by all of the glitz and glamour and the comfort of the world, we do that. But it snuggles up on you so much that it'll allow you to partake of all of the goodness. And then the goodness will dry up and you'll be like, darn, I got to go back over here. Because that's my safe place. This is the fountain of which all things spring. And I got to snuggle up intentionally again. And then after a while of going back and forth, in and out of snuggling and going back into the world, and then famine comes and you go back to snuggle, and you get to, it'll communicate to you and say, if you just stay I'll show you some things that will make your life so worth living, so eventful, that you will not find what I will give you anywhere else. I will make your crooked spaces straight, and I will make all of the confusion go away. These are the chosen. You see, to be chosen is not something you parade. Because being chosen doesn't seem like it's a good thing. It does not. It seems like an attack. It seems like a huge risk. It's the biggest risk of your life. Everything is on the line. Why? Because to be chosen you look crazy to people. It looks ridiculous. To be chosen means that you will be viewed by people in a light that is not truly who you are. Only for you, as the one that's chosen, to be able to notice. Why? Because you need to know more than anything the limitations of people, the characteristics of people. Not when everything is good, but when things are horrific. You will need to know what it's like to be voiceless and have people think of you in ways that just do not fit your paradigm, and you not have any way of defending it. Yet you will psychoanalyze that. Abram and Sarah. Abram was the one anointed. Abram had the promise. Yet Abram is looking at the world completely different. He's not getting muddled down in domestic affairs. Everybody is either vying for a position in Abram's universe or looking to attack Abram, Sarah included. The level of anointing on Abram made Sarah self-conscious on levels that nobody would be able to understand but her and Abram. Surely he was her husband and her brother. But that means nothing in the big scheme of things if she could not produce. Nothing. God would lead these people through many walks amongst powerful nations. Powerful nations. And all these nations, these kings of these nations, would know the God of Israel, because this God is their father. He is the creator. They know him. That's how Balaam knew of him. This is why Balaam is saying, I can't go beyond my God. This is why Balaam is agreeing. He knows the truth. Yet God would lead these people through jealousy, envy, fear, frustrations of other nations. All so that these other nations could conjure up a level of envy, jealousy, all of fear, frustrations to these people. Why? Because they could not defeat them and they could not partake of the promise. Only for it to get to a space where these people would assimilate amongst these nations. God's chosen would now break down, and they would still hold the title of God's chosen, but they would assimilate. The first assimilation is Babylon. And then they will fall into this whole roller coaster of assimilation and further enslavements. What God would tell these people of not mating with the nations would go out the window. They would begin mating with everybody. Now, the chosen are indistinguishable in a way. And we begin the New Testament. And God is looking to do a new thing. Jesus come forth and he says, I want to come forth to the lost sheep of Israel, surely. But because he's giving it one last go. I got to try for you the third try. This is the third try. Exclusivity. I got to come and remind you, the remnant of you that are left. The remnant of you that are left, I need to kindle a fire in you because it is of you that kindled the fire in the nations. That's how it is. It is the remnant of this house, this mighty house of chosen people that God would choose, that Jesus would come forth and would spread his knowledge upon, doing somewhat the same thing that God did with Abram. And all of the antennas tweak of the world, all these other nations, all these other people are now interested. They've been interested all along, but the whole house has been broken down and they're down in the dumps, and the wall of Jerusalem is broken. The people are enslaved. Rome is taking over the systems. Everything is corrupted. What God chooses is it's hard to corrupt what God chooses. But what man creates and chooses is corruptible. And this is what we're seeing when Jesus comes forth. We're seeing systems that the Romans created to mimic God's systems, to siphon God's power from the children. But the systems are corrupted because the people are put in position, not because of their spiritual prowess and their spiritual alignment to God, but because of their political viewpoints and their worldly cares and comforts. They'll do anything to get a check or get some fame, and they may have some love for God, but that's corruptible if the price is right. This is what we see in Jesus' time. But Jesus comes forth and he says specifically, I come forth for the lost sheep of Israel. Why? Because he knows something. This same recipe that God would use when he comes forth to Abram, and he walks Abram throughout all of the nations, him and Sarah and their troop of people, would do something amongst the nations. It would garner the attention of the nations. Why? Because this God power, like I said yesterday, this God power, the fullness of the covering is like a magnet. It's undeniable, friend. It's the most prominent and the most powerful covering you can have on anything in this world, in this universe. It's undeniable. There's not a science that can really garner what exactly it is to mimic it. Going back to what I say about God, when God chooses something, it's very difficult to corrupt it. Yet when man chooses something, oh, it's entirely corruptible. It's just a matter of, it's not even a matter of time. It's corrupting as you speak. It's just like buying a car. It depreciates in value once it leaves the lot. It's the same way when man chooses something. And this is why Jesus comes forth and he says, I'm coming forth for the lost sheep of Israel. Because it is through you that I'm going to strike a fire, and through you will garner all the attention of everybody. You are like the alarm going off in Israel. Ring the alarm. That's somewhat what Jesus is doing. And all of the Gentile nations take notice. Yet at this time, much of what people would consider the Gentile nations were actually blended with the children. The children had made it with everybody. There were lost tribes that had gone missing. They had blended so much. And now he can say, to be included in this, as a Gentile, all you need is faith and baptism. But for the Israelites, the lost sheep, you were chosen. And there are differentiating factors. Your faith is proven. You are of the vine. I need to speak truth to you, to remind you and reset you of these truths. Whereas for the Gentile nations, they would need to be included by way of faith and baptism. Evan, you can ask your question. I can try to answer it. What is this live about? Being chosen is not something that you sign up to do. Being chosen is a very, very difficult path. It's the most difficult path of your life. Being chosen, because it costs so much. It really does. It cost Abram everything. He had to turn his back on his whole life. The life he had before, he had to walk a new path. David, it cost David everything. David was completely ostracized from his own community. He was afraid of his life. A warrior not able to use his hands and feet to protect himself against his attacker. Joseph went from pillar to post. Did not know what his tomorrow would be like. Being subservient to people that did not want him around, that did not like him, that spoke ill of him, that manipulated him, that looked to manipulate their way, and that looked to manipulate having their way in his life, that wanted to take control of his life and use him to their benefit as if his life was not worthy. All of these people chosen. Moses, chosen. Left everything. Having to be responsible for people that very difficult people to control and to lead. Chosen.